Hey guys, Heather here from the Tye-Dyed Iguana, and today we're going to talk about one of the most common questions that we get asked here at the Tye-Dyed Iguana by our customers. Why isn't my pet reptile eating? Well, there are a lot of answers to that question, and today we're going to go over all the different reasons why your reptile might not be eating, starting with the number one issue we see with customers here at our store with their animals. Now, the first thing that we'll ask a customer here at our store when they tell us that their reptile isn't eating is, what's the temperature of the hot spot in the cage? Now, when we ask them to measure the temperature of the hot spot, we just mean the little part of the ground that is directly below the beam of the heat lamp. We don't mean to measure the tank's temperature of the wall, like some people have a little thermometer thing that they put on the side of the cage. That only measures the temperature of the wall, and it usually reads way off of what the hot spot really is. Now, when that hot spot isn't the right temperature, if it's too cold, the animal's not going to want to eat because it won't be able to digest the food as well. So that definitely makes them less likely to eat, as if they're too cold. They don't want to eat anything. They won't be able to digest it very well at all. And the opposite is true too. If it's too hot in the tank, the animal's not going to feel like eating because it's stressed out from being too hot, and they won't be in the mood to eat. So it's just got to kind of be the right temperature. Now, another thing that's really common is if it doesn't have the proper UVB in the tank. They need that UVB to properly digest everything and all that good stuff. So if they don't have the proper UVB, they won't eat as well either. They also makes them develop metabolic bone disease for the diurnal species, and that definitely makes them not want to eat. So if you don't have any UVB on a diurnal animal, or if the UVB bulb is expired and isn't giving off the amount of UVB it should, you might find that your animal's appetite has gone way down. So that's definitely another reason why they wouldn't be eating. I would say that UVB and temperature are the number one causes of an animal not eating, is if they have improper temperature or UVB. It all boils down to proper lighting and heating. Now, another reason why an animal might not be eating a lot is, especially during this time of year, is because it's brumating. Now, we commonly see this in many of the snakes here at the store. We also see it among our bearded dragons too. It's when during the cold months their metabolism slows down because the temperatures have gone down, and then also because even though they have proper lighting and heating during the colder months, they just it's kind of like an instinctual thing. They just kind of slow down. Their metabolism slows down, so they don't digest food as fast, and they don't need to eat as much because they've slowed down so much. Say if you don't use energy, you don't need to put more energy in. So if they slow down a lot, they don't need to eat a lot. And as for brumating, snakes can go many months at a time without eating, especially the adults. We don't see it as much in babies. The adults, however, especially ball pythons, we see that a lot in ball pythons. Our one green tree python, Slinky, over there. Hi, Autumn.
Hi.
He goes... He brumates every year too. He does sleep quite a lot, but he's awake right now. Yeah, he slows down during the fall and winter months. He won't eat as much. Say no, he won't. But that's perfectly normal. Usually during brumation, your animal won't lose a lot of weight. If they do, then that's a concern. During brumation, their weight shouldn't change much at all. If they start to drop weight and start to look really skinny during brumation, then that's when you've got probably a secondary problem on your hands, like an illness or something. Now, reason number 3 that an animal might not be eating is because it's sick. Now, most people like to go to this reason first and foremost, but that's usually not the case. Usually it's improper temperature or lighting or something like that, but of course there's always a possibility that your animal could be sick. Now, some illnesses, problems that could make them not eat is impaction, and that's when they get kind of constipated, where they might have ingested bedding or something, and they can't go to the bathroom. Now, an animal will stop eating altogether if that happens usually, and they'll usually start losing weight because they can't eat anything and they're all stopped up. So that is definitely one thing to look out for. Usually with impaction, you'll feel something really hard when you feel their stomach or whatever. Yeah, and that's something you definitely want to get checked out. Usually a vet can help you figure out how to help things pass along, or they might have to help them out. Now, another common illness that might cause your animals to stop eating is parasites, especially with wild-caught species. If you know your animal is wild-caught, sometimes they'll come to you with parasites that steal the body of nutrients and everything and make them sick. And when animals get sick, they don't feel good, and that'll usually cause them to stop eating. Now, the opposite may be true with parasites, since parasites steal, basically they're eating all the food that the animal's eating and stealing all the nutrition from it. So your animal might increase its feeding at first to make up for that, but it'll just keep losing weight no matter how much it's eating. And then that'll eventually lead to it not feeling well and then stopping eating because it gets sick. So that's definitely something to look out for. That's an illness that can cause them to stop eating. And then another problem that you can face is mouth rot. This guy don't have mouth rot, but it is a common problem in tortoises, I think, because if people feed their tortoises too much fruit with fruit juice, that can cause mouth rot. Of course, they're not the only animals that can get mouth rot. It is a more common problem, I'd say. Mouth rot is really painful for them. They develop sores in the mouth. And of course, when your mouth is hurting and everything, you really don't want to eat. So that's another problem that these guys can face that would cause them to stop eating, is mouth rot. Now, reason number 4 why an animal might not be eating is because it's kind of getting to that point where it's not going through a huge growth spurt and it's kind of slowing down in growth. So it might not be eating as much as it did when it was younger. Now, baby bearded dragons, they eat about 2 to 3 dozen crickets a day, whereas an adult might eat like 2 dozen crickets every other day. So as bearded dragons get older and get more to that adult size, they slow down their eating, and the adults eat about 2 dozen crickets every other day or so. Some eat more, some eat less. They just don't need as much energy to go through that big growth spurt that they go through when they're younger. Because if you've ever had a baby bearded dragon before, you know that they grow up really fast in the first few months. So they need that extra food for all of that growth. And this goes for about any other animal that we've got here. Chameleons, they grow up pretty quick from babies too, and they'll slow down eating. They'll eat a lot more as babies, so it's definitely something that happens with all reptiles. They don't eat as much. Now, this next reason is a lot more common in snakes than in lizards, because snakes, they shed all at once, whereas lizards, they shed in pieces. Now, a snake that is going through shed, it's very vulnerable during that time. It just kind of gets dull and cloudy, and it also gets eye caps on its eyes where its eyes get all foggy and everything, kind of foggy looking, and they can't see as well. They just don't want to eat. They want to stay away from anything that could hurt them. They just want to kind of hunker down. They don't really want to eat very much during this time. But when you've got a lizard, that usually isn't a problem at all. Some snakes will be kind of weird and they will eat even while they're shedding, but a lot of snakes, they don't feel much like eating when they're beginning to start the shedding process. So they might need kind of like a week break or so with feedings to finish up shedding and everything, and then they should be ready right after shedding to eat. Now, the last reason why an animal may not eat that I'm going to mention today is that they are facing competition and they're feeling dominated. Now, this only happens when you're keeping multiple animals together. We see this a lot in people that decide to bring like multiple bearded dragons home. Now, this is the reason why we tell people when they get multiple animals at the same time to pick out animals that are the same size. Because if you've got one big one and one small one, the big one is probably going to dominate the smaller one and not let them eat and steal all the food. So, of course, the animal will not eat. And they also may just be stressed out by being in the same tank as a bigger one. And they just may not eat due to that amount of stress that they're feeling at the time. So yeah, for sure, if you keep multiple animals together, don't keep animals together that are way different size. Also, try to avoid keeping two males together in species where it makes a difference, especially bearded dragons, because two males will kill each other. And then there are some species of animals that you can't keep together at all, like chameleons. Chameleons do not do well when put with other chameleons. They will stress each other out. Usually one will dominate the other one, or they may both just stop eating because they're stressing each other out too much. So that's definitely something to look out for. Eric, what's your reason why a reptile won't eat?
Because it's dead.
So yeah, those are the major reasons why an animal might not be eating. There are other reasons, but these are the most important ones to look out for. That last one was kind of silly. Eric was being kind of silly there, so yeah, just ignore that one. Like I said, the number one reason is usually improper temperature and UVB lighting, so that'll be the first thing that you check. Other than that, just kind of look at some of the other reasons why on the list, see if anything like that is happening with your animal, and you should be good to go and to troubleshoot your problem. So thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time.